Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Ambassador Tai, it's good to see you again, as always. Your opening statement focused a lot on China, saying we welcome competition, but competition needs to be fair, and that a level playing field is not there with China now. I want to focus on how we can get tough on China by encouraging trade. And I don't think that those two are countering one another. In fact, I think that they're complementary. I think the ideal trade policy is one that's pro-trade and yet anti-cheating. In our WTO resolution, Senator Cardin and I proposed the United States pursue sector-specific trade agreements with like-minded countries. In other words, plurilateral agreements. The best example of that would be the WTO agreement on procurement, the GPA, Government Procurement Agreement. And basically what you do is you ensure the benefits only flow to those parties to the agreement rather than typical most favored nation approach. My concern is that right now China is able to get a free ride often. And they're getting a free ride on the global trading system, and they're often a spoiler as to negotiating progress at the WTO. And the WTO is constrained right now. Since negotiation isn't successful, they're turning to judicial activism, which typically hurts America's interests. So I do believe that we have an opportunity here to change our approach and focus on these plurilateral agreements. You have spoken positively about that when we've talked about it. In fact, in response to some questions I asked after the last hearing, let me ask you today, are you ready to pursue those kinds of agreements? Do you agree that sector-specific plurilateral agreements without MFN are an effective way to work with allies, but also put pressure on China?
Senator Portman, I think that this is a very promising set of parameters in terms of how to support the WTO as a negotiating forum to spur the kind of strategic trade that we want to have. To your example about the government procurement agreement, I think that one of the things that is really special about that plurilateral that addresses the free riding concern that you have is that our market is inherently closed to competition here, and it requires opening, and that you can do that opening on a country-by-country basis. That's something we should think about, and I'd be very interested in talking through with you whether or not that framework holds for other types of policies, and where we do have a natural fit for that kind of agreement.
Great. I think we have some other ideas in addition to government procurement. I think that could be quite effective, but I appreciate your openness to it and your willingness to commit to exploring those types of agreements. On the UK agreement, as you know, I'm disappointed it was not noticed last month, so we could have gotten it under current TPA, Trade Promotion Authority. But I think it's a really important agreement for us to complete. Senator Coons and I, as you know, co-sponsor or co-chair the UK Trade Caucus. I think it would put us on track toward not just getting back into trade agreements and expanding trade, but also put pressure on China. Can you tell us where you are on the UK negotiations? And given the fact that we weren't able to get it under current TPA because we didn't notice it by April, are you prepared to extend TPA authority to ask us here in Congress to extend it to be able to include at least the UK agreement, which is so close to being completed?
Senator Portman, I'm glad you're asking about the UK agreement and the UK in general. I know how important this topic is to you and this partnership. Let me say this, in terms of the agreement not being noticed already, I will share with you that in my review of the progress made in the negotiations, there had been 5 rounds, but very critical issue areas are still open in terms of those negotiations. So there's still quite a road to go there. There are so many ways in which we are engaging with the United Kingdom right now. On the agreement itself, let me say this. From my perspective, it is really important for us to think through the objectives for this agreement now that we have some of the issues settled with the UK's exit from the European Union. I will note that I hear a lot of concerns from members of Congress around the situation in Northern Ireland. That is something that we are keeping our eye on in terms of steps forward with the UK on an agreement. But most importantly, I think, and I'll get to the end here so you can follow up. We want to think through how we devise this agreement so that it supports the significant domestic investments that this administration wants to make with Congress, so that we have an agreement that is supporting the competitiveness and the growth of the U.S. economy, and will also serve the U.K.'s interests.
Move forward with the exclusion process going forward, as we've talked about in our letter from Senator Carper and myself?
So I'm really glad you asked this question. I'm sorry that, I'm running out of time here. Per your request and your recommendation at my confirmation hearing, we are undertaking
Setting up a new exclusion process?
the top-to-bottom review on China at USTR, and the tariffs and the exclusion process will be a critical component of that review, through which we will be soliciting robust feedback from the public, from Congress, and from everyone who's affected by these.
Thank you, Ambassador. Thank you,
policies.
Chairman.